Okay, well, that was a great report from Christina. Lots of questions here. And we know today there is some new information that is coming out about this suspect, David DePepe. His stepdaughter is speaking out, saying that this is a very abusive person. He was abusive to his children, to the mother of his children, both physically and sexually abusive. Also, she said that this person, David DePepe, is basically a good person, but he has a monster inside of him that he can't control. Nonetheless, this really is painting the picture of a very unstable person, but that didn't stop Democrats and the media from blaming right-wing politics for this attack. Let's take a listen to President Biden from earlier today.
You can't condemn the violence unless you condemn those people who continue to argue the election was not real, that it's being stolen, that all the malarkey that's being put out there.
Okay, and it wasn't just President Biden. The media was also on the attack right away after this incident. Let's take a listen to this exchange from MSNBC.
The intruder confronted Mr. Pelosi in their home, shouting, "Where is Nancy? Where is Nancy?" Debbie Dingell, that's what the intruders going through the hallways on January 6th were shouting, "Nancy, Nancy." This is part of the January 6th insurrection toxicity.
What sort of climate of violence has been created in this country? And the answer, and you could play tapes of Donald Trump as candidate and president urging people on in a violent way.
All right, let's take this discussion out to the table. Lara, let me go to you first. I'm guessing when you first heard about this horrific attack, and it was horrific, I'm guessing that you might have thought that this would be taken back to January 6th and to the former president.
I think the response from Biden and from all of the mainstream media folks is basically the most predictable part of this entire situation. We all knew how long until they can draw some direct line to anything to do with Republicans, conservatives, right-wing, anything. And of course, they didn't skip a beat. They went right there. And let's say this was a horrific attack, exactly as you're saying, Anita. There's no question about it. We wish Paul Pelosi well. We hope he gets better soon. But you know, no matter what, we don't have all of the information so far. And jumping to conclusions like this does absolutely nothing good for anyone. Let me read something that a Democrat, Maxine Waters, said. I'm sure everyone remembers this. Yeah. If you see anyone from that cabinet in a restaurant, at a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. You push back on them. You tell them that they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. I'm old enough to remember Joe Biden recently calling half the country semi-fascist, saying that we were a threat to democracy. So to all of a sudden jump to this conclusion, very predictable, totally unhelpful. We don't have all the information, but for Democrats to jump out there and try and suggest that somehow Republicans, Trump, January 6th, any of it is to blame, of course, ridiculous.
You know, I want to ask David about the timeline here. We heard a little bit about the timeline in Christina's report. Police apparently responded within minutes, but there's a lot of questions around this timeline. What questions do you have?
Well, the timeline of response, 3 minutes, not really that surprising. Typically in that neighborhood, and I actually just came through San Francisco, but I know that area, police are usually stationed there. They hang out in the better neighborhoods because of the homes, the crime, and the expanding crime into those areas, into the Mission District and other areas. So that doesn't bother me. But the timeline tied with the call, the statements, the comments made, the speaking in code, what type of entry was made, what type of alarm system is on the house that did alert ahead of 911. And you know, I want to go back to something Lara said, because I started listening to the AM talk stations like here in New York at 1010 Wins on the way in and others. And they're committing the sin of, one, blaming Republicans without the facts, no surprise there, but omitting the differences. This guy is clearly delusional in many ways, dangerous, probably needs a lot of help psychologically, among other things. And if you look at his, call it manifesto background of what he believes in and what he said, he's like a lot of these other people that have gone against everything at any moment, drawing from something. So they're doing a disservice. But here we are 10 days from the elections, and it's important for Democrats to bring up the specter of race, the specter of MAGA, as they see it. I don't see MAGA as a specter personally. What's wrong with Make America Great Again? But this is about bringing up something as a negative when they're looking to lose. And this is what they're doing all across the country. This is a moment they're going to use as much as they can this weekend. And frankly, it is a lie to say it is one or the other. Extremists are outside the norm, and this guy has multiple ideologies.
David, let's go ahead and look at these charges that this suspect faces. Let's go ahead and put that up on the screen. He faces a slew of charges from attempted homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, burglary, several additional felonies as well. We all remember just a couple of months ago, Representative Lee Zeldin was attacked on stage when he was campaigning for governor. Quite a different story with his attacker. He was let out of jail, and then because Congressman Zeldin is a congressman, he is going to face some federal charges. But let's take a listen to Lee Zeldin's response. He talked to Neil Cavuto just this morning.
When something like that happens to me, when it happens to my family, when it happens to other people like we saw yesterday, it's a reminder that this can happen to anybody.
The fellow who attacked you on stage back in the summer, he is to be released from custody in a matter of a few days into an alcohol treatment program.
Within hours, he was released because of New York's cashless bail law. The feds then have to get involved a day and a half later and charge him because I'm a member of Congress. But if I wasn't a member of Congress, he would have never been detained at all. The feds wouldn't have been able to get involved with that charge.
Joey, let me go to you. What do you think people think when they look at this? Do you think they see a difference in the way justice is doled out?
I think more so even than that. I mean, people in San Francisco have to ask themselves, would I get a response that quick where I live? I mean, that's something that's a little bit local. I think with all of this, I can't not go back to President Biden's words just a few minutes ago. The idea that let's be completely clean spoken about this. This has everything to do with the midterms in a week and a half. I mean, they've got hopefully abortion for them in their minds, and they've got January 6th and the idea that anyone that wants a secure election wants to overturn an election. That's all they have. That's all they have to run on. They don't have a policy that they can put out there. They don't have an accomplishment they can put out there. The most they can do is an infrastructure bill that they needed Republican support on, and it was originally a Republican idea. And so they don't have anything else to offer. We're going to talk later about how much hot water they're in all across the country. So what's Biden do? He uses this as an opportunity, which is absolutely shameful, to spin it back to January 6th. And that's as much as he has to say about it. At the end of the day, the party that had Paul Ryan pushing grandma off a cliff, the party that called Republicans hateful and bigots for wanting to protect children from sexualized drag shows, the party that showed up at a Supreme Court justice's house with a fake baby covered in blood to talk about how great abortion was, can say nothing about inciting violence through political rhetoric. We live in a country that just doesn't protect free speech. We absolutely celebrate it. Sometimes that means burning someone in effigy. Sometimes it means being grotesque in a protest. None of those things are great, but they're celebrated and protected. And to try to link this crazy man's actions back to a political movement, it's shameful.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.